You can see and taste wonderful. By now you've had the opportunity to, you've probably got your annual reports in the mail. So with that, I also want to thank all of the ministries and committees that make the day-to-day activities around here work flawlessly. You're the reason why all of us are here and have everything that we do, and we thank you. So maybe we could get a quick round of applause. You guys are wonderful. Thank you. I also want to give a special thank you to Mike and Daisy Vasu for their generous donation of Pete the Great, the photographer. Not only did they donate the photography, but they flew him all the way down from Cleveland, Ohio to be here. So we've got a brief program planned. Right? So stick around, take some photos, and enjoy the fellowship that all of you have created by being here. As Father Anthony mentioned earlier, we gather here today to recognize and acknowledge the hard work and vision of the people, both past and present, that have made St. Anthony the place that it is today. As I've come to know many of you who have been here since the beginning, I often find myself what you must feel like inside, how full your hearts must be as you look around and see what it is that you've created. What's once started out with just a handful of people and an idea and a love for Christ turned into a thriving community. You should all be overwhelmed with pride. Before any further introductions, and I turn this over to my wife, I want to take a moment also to thank and recognize all of my past Parish Council Chairman and Chairwoman, Teresa, I know you're here, who have served in the past. Without your selfless contributions, none of this exists. I would like to ask those of you who served in this role to please stand up. I know you're here, stand. Oh no, you don't get to sit down yet. Remain standing. I would also like to ask that anyone who has served on parish council, currently or in the past, would you also please stand up and be recognized. Build it and they will come, and came they did. So thank you to all of you. I appreciate it. Now I'm going to turn things over to my lovely wife, Emily, and she's going to walk us through the rest. Thank you. Oh, I thought you wanted to shake my hand.
I know how important the dessert is, so I'll do my best to be as focused as possible. But I want to first say, glory to Jesus Christ.
Glory forever.
Verily, truly, I tell you, whoever accepts anyone I send accepts me, and whoever accepts me accepts the one who sent me. John chapter 13, verse 20. That speaks to the heart and soul of this community. Reverend clergy and honored guests, founders, benefactors of St. Anthony. Today is a beautiful, beautiful day. 1984 kicked off what is now this amazing campus, and we are beginning the celebration of a year-long 40th anniversary of St. Anthony the Great Orthodox Christian Church. Not everybody was around 1984, and I'm not going to own it if I was or wasn't. However, for those of you who might remember this, the original Macintosh personal computer was available and made for sale during the Super Bowl for $2,500. Purple Rain and The Terminator both came out that year. And a group of committed Orthodox Christians came together to start St. Anthony the Great. As you can imagine, the quietness of this coming together started late last year, and there was a humble intention of how do we capture all the sentiments and gratitude of the investments of time and talent and treasure, but still being appreciative within the humility of St. Anthony and the parish. And before I go any further, I really have to thank Father Anthony Baba for his pastoral guidance and for making today happen, and the volunteers, as my husband John recognized, the Ladies Auxiliary, the Men's Society, the church school, everybody, the choir, which is amazing. Everyone pitched in for today's celebration, so thank you very, very much. As I mentioned earlier, there was a quietness and just a humility of trying to put together today. We even got beautiful letters from founders who couldn't make it. And we were thinking to ourselves, how do we best share all of this? And with Father's direction and guidance, we thought we could celebrate the 4 decades by touching on individuals who could tell a story, a snapshot of the parish in a particular time. I looked to Scripture because I wanted to make sure I captured the sentiment. And before I introduce the 4 very quick speakers, I want to share this with you. All the believers were of one heart and mind. No one claimed that any of their possessions were of their own, but they shared everything they had. And when we think of our parish, there's been nothing more than just sharing of love, sharing of culture, sharing of faith. And it's with this message from the Acts of the Apostle we're recognizing the 40th anniversary. I'd like to first introduce Chip Galagaza, if you could come towards me, wherever you are.
Chip.
Oh my. Chip has served the parish for nearly 30 years, a staple. Many of you know him as Uncle Chip. I like to refer to him as the chairman emeritus of the coffee hour. So we're going to so we'll ask Chip to come up.
It'll be 29 years this April when we began searching, late March, early April, for a new Orthodox community to join. Some of you aren't old enough to remember the Yellow Pages. And we did have the Yellow Pages. You can find churches, and I found all the Orthodox churches. We'd already been to St. George, to Annunciation. Frankly, big did not work for me. Besides, Annunciation and St. George really didn't need another family. After 2 or 3 parishes, we came to St. Anthony. And what you've heard, I think, is a consistent theme that I would join in, is the Christian love and friendliness that you get when you walk in the doors at St. Anthony. This was the same when we walked in. At the time, they had already graduated, thank God, from the storefront to a multi-purpose building that had been built over on Mirror Lake. As soon as we walked in the doors, we were greeted. And we were greeted with love and encouragement. After the liturgy, people came up and asked us, we had our son 3.5 years old, and Missy was pregnant, so she quickly became known as the pregnant lady. We had a beautiful choir even back then. Diane Angelo, wherever you are. There's Diana, was our choir director. I know John Lickward's here. He was singing. I made the mistake of telling one, yes, I sang. And 29 years later, I'm still doing it. I'm waiting for my wife to fire me because we finally have guys who can sing. When we arrived at St. Anthony, this would have been 1995, it was obviously a community of love, and it appeared to be growing. 3 acres on Mirror Lake, not much room for expansion. They bought what they could. They built a beautiful facility. They built it in large part with their own hands. The iconostasis that we have in our church today was built by George Boyer. I believe he started in his garage where he had, so we carry a lot of that forward. But life is not without challenges, and we at St. Anthony had our challenges as well. We really didn't have the room to grow. We looked for an architect, got an architect, spent a lot of money on the architect, then fired the architect. It was one of the best things we did. I won't go there. But things were tough. When we joined, it appeared to be growing. Our family, as all families do, came on some hard times. There were Sundays where we would pass a second tray to be able to pay the light bill. Now, when you come here, for those of you who have joined us recently and you see this beautiful campus, I suspect it's hard for you all to remember that. Once the land was found, and I think Yusuf Kayal, thank you, by the way, to the Boyer, or to the Angelos and the Yusuf Kayal, I know he's here. Gary Fowler, Gary's here somewhere. I think those of you who were in that clubhouse and decided to actually start this endeavor, we owe you a debt of gratitude beyond words. We had to do something, or St. Anthony, I think, would have not just withered, but really would have died. We would have all gone to our own deserts. When we had no business doing so, this land was found. The parish, you can tell we weren't thinking straight. I got chosen to be treasurer. We got over here. We decided to build a church with 30 pledging families, 19 of whom could afford. Everyone gave what they could. 19 of whom could afford to pledge towards the building of this beautiful temple we have. We bought 11.27 acres. We put money down, had a balloon note in 2 years or 3 years with the, I can't remember. How many years was the balloon note? 3 years. In 3 years, we had to find a way off to pay almost $1 million. And then guess what? Once more, God intervened. What a lot of you may not know is the front 3 acres of this land is owned by CVS. Thank God they haven't done anything up there. And maybe one day we'll get it back. But 30 families, 19 of whom were able to financially commit to building a parish. We had no business building it. Committed to building that temple. And that was the beginning. That is the thing I think that saved St. Anthony as a parish, because while the template for most Orthodox parishes from the time my grandparents came was to build a multi-purpose facility and then build a church, that wasn't the right way for us. Our parish needed a temple first. We didn't need a hall. So we bought the land. We spent several months at what I refer to as Santa La Quinta. There's a La Quinta over on the east side of 45 where we had service for a while. We moved out here in the mud, had 2 double-wide trailers that we then moved over there. God bless, some very generous parishioners helped add to our facilities, which with temporary trailers that we use for our hall. And then things started snowballing because the faith and the love and the commitment and the perseverance and what the people of this parish have always exhibited to me is a love of one another and an even greater love in Jesus Christ and God. Because we were going to commit to making a community, and one that went from 19 families to what do we have now, Father? 300? 250 families who call this a parish. The other thing that thrills me, and I'll sit down, that's the high side, I hope. Don't let someone who's even a semi-retired lawyer talk. The other thing that's always thrilled me about St. Anthony is that we have welcomed all people. I don't care what your religious background is, your race, creed, national origin, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. This is a parish community that loves and accepts everyone, which I think is one of the fundamental tenets of our faith anyway. We don't discriminate. We prefer that you're Orthodox. So, and now, almost 29 years later, I'm excited. I hearken back to the late Father Matthew McKay, who guided us through some difficult times. He was the late parish priest at St. Joseph. Is that Orthodox churches don't do well when they get really big. We're not meant for big, and I really believe that. And he also said, we also always have to somehow find a new project to get in debt over. So while we have this beautiful, beautiful campus, we have a beautiful church, we have a beautiful hall, we have a beautiful administration building and school building, let's not get complacent. Let's not stop here. The better is yet to come, that our children and grandchildren will be our legacy to what we've built so far. Thank you.
Thank you, Chip. Before I forget, everybody see these beautiful organza bags? And they have a wonderful, it's a magnet of our church. This is a gift to all of you from the Ladies Society. So please take it home, proudly display it, promote the church. And it was Olga's idea, Olga Trammell, who's there. Give her a little wink. But thank you very much. Chip, thank you. That was awesome. Our next storyteller, former president of MAM, current co-chair of our Community Outreach Committee, founding member of St. Anthony, who jumped from St. George, faithfully serving and praying and remembering all of our days on FM 1960, I'd like to introduce Mrs. Teresa Allen.
Good morning. Good afternoon. I don't know how I got up here, but I didn't write a speech because what I wanted to say to you, I wanted it to come from my heart and how I felt. Certainly I can't beat Chip. He knows the statistics. He knows all the good stuff. All I know is my journey here. I was born and raised in Houston, in Lindale, near the Heights, and I grew up with my grandmother and my mother, and we went to St. George. That was our church. Yes. And there I had all my cousins, Ralph, Sandra, Sharon, Gary Fowler, all the Aberseys, the Fowlers, and the Macy's, some of them. And my grandmother, you had to know Lula Macy. She was a force. And she did not want to let me loose to come to St. Anthony. I had my children. I was married there. I baptized my children there. And then my husband and I moved to Spring, and the drive there was becoming atrocious. So that meant sometimes we went, sometimes we didn't. Anyway, it was a struggle. We vacillated back and forth the idea of what to do. So one day, Ralph may not remember this, in church, I was telling my grandmother, we really want to come to St. Anthony. It's too far to keep coming here. And Ralph tells me, well, honey, they have a church on 1960, an Orthodox Church. And I said, oh, okay. He said, well, it's a mission. And I said, okay, well, we'll try. And he tells me where we're going, and it's the Strip Center. That's what. So we walk in. It's very small, but it's very warm. And I thought, well, okay, this is good. This is good. And so we tried. But of course, I got the pull from my grandmother and my mother. They don't see the kids, so we vacillated back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Sometimes we went to St. Anthony, sometimes we went to St. George, and we followed St. Anthony from there. When they got onto Mirror Lake, we went there, and it really took hold of me, and it was right in my subdivision, so we started going. From there, we followed them here to the trailers. And I have to tell you, I think it was the best decision I've ever made, because I thought, I want to be involved with these people somehow, some small way. So I got involved with the ladies, and the best ladies you could ever have worked this church. Rhonda, Nassif, Victoria Tanous, all these ladies. There's more than those two, but they stick in my mind. Fatin, they've taught me so many things that I've learned here. And I feel like as you get older, you start to find what you learn, what faith is about, and what you put into it. And I don't think you gain anything if you don't put anything into it. I don't think you feel this church. I feel this church. This is a heartbeat for me. When I walk in those doors on Sundays, I leave everything behind in the first part of my week, and I just leave it there on the altar, and I just start over. I find the love here. There's so many people here. I can't even name them all. Father Anthony and his beautiful wife and their children. We have Father John and his wife and their children. Emily and her children. I've worked with her son. All of these people have meant something to me. The deacon and his beautiful family. And one thing I can say about the deacon, when I was in church and I heard him start preaching in Arabic, I thought, oh wow, here he is, he's speaking Arabic, and I've been in a house with people speaking Arabic my whole life. I don't understand it and I can't speak it. So that touches me too. So I see a lot of things here that I'm proud of, and I hope that we can keep this going. And I know that we've jumped hurdles, but I think God gave us a little bit at a time to see what we could handle, and then he gave us more. And then we jumped another hurdle, and here we are. And now we're the mother church. We're a mother church, and we have to reach out and help another church. I think that's how it keeps going. So pretty soon you're going to drive down the freeway, you're going to see a lot of Orthodox Church, not just Methodist, Lutheran, or Baptist, but we're going to see a lot of Orthodox churches. And I just want to say thank you to everybody here, and I'm proud to be here, and I love this church. I love Father Anthony and all he's been able to do for me, and to stand by us, to guide us, and to lead us, and his beautiful wife, who's always so quiet and calm, but she is something else. She is a leader. She is a leader. She is a leader for women, and we love her, and I love our group. Thank you.
Faithful and devoted daughter of Woody and Rhonda Nassif, a child raised within the parish of St. Anthony's. Many years ago in the trailers, a former church school director and teacher. So our next storyteller, please welcome Mrs. Deanne Saad.
This one? Okay. Thank you.
Really talking to it.
It is so beautiful to see this hall filled with so many people who love St. Anthony's. Just looking around this room and seeing so many familiar faces of families I grew up with over the past 32 years and new faces brings joy to my heart, and seeing how far we have come as a community and grown. The community of St. Anthony welcomed my family in 1992 with open arms, back when we were at the Mirror Lake property. This church is known for its wonderful reputation of hospitality, and with an instant connection, St. Anthony became our second home. I am so blessed and thankful to have grown in this church and watched the evolution of our parish grow. I'm extremely grateful to my parents, Wadia and Renda Nassif, who raised my sister and I to have Christ at the center of our hearts and grow close to the church. One thing I learned from my parents is that we do not build a church just for ourselves, but for future generations. Their dedication to St. Anthony over the past years has been an inspiration. Briefly going down memory lane, I remember memories of a festival on the church property. I recall seeing my mom on the stage performing the debke, a traditional Arabic group dance, with a group of other parishioners she had taught the choreography to. Fundraising events at local Arabic restaurants in Houston, like El Bistan and Mirage, and the start of what we called the Poor Man Lucky Night event. There were beautiful luncheons and agape potlucks on the grounds as the families gathered under the trees and the picnic tables. I remember my parents setting up soccer goals on the field, spending time cutting the grass, and lining the field for the adults versus kids games. The childhood memories go on and on. Over the years, I've watched the parish grow, from the Mirror Lake property to the purchase of this beautiful land, and as we waited for it to be properly cleared and developed, we transitioned to La Quinta, then trailers, and witnessed the blessing of the land and the beautiful building of this church, the hall, and the administration building. I'm continuously amazed at the growth of this parish, from a 30-family community to hundreds now. We are truly blessed to call this parish our home. The church is a wonderful and safe place to watch our children grow their faith and make memories. The example that my parents' dedication and love for the church and our second family here at St. Anthony has inspired me throughout my childhood through this day to give back and be involved. From singing in the choir, being a Sunday school teacher and director for 14 years, volunteering as a committee member on the Mediterranean Night Gala, among many, many other things. I'm eternally grateful to my parents and the St. Anthony community for all the continued memories. My husband and I are excited to see what the future of St. Anthony holds for our future family and generations to come, building memories in this heartwarming parish. May God continue to bless St. Anthony's, the priests and their families who have served over the past few years, and bless you and your families. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. And we're going to conclude, before Father comes up, our final speaker. I'm going to give her a proper. The first woman I met walking into this church greeted us with such love and joy that it was contagious. Do your children want to enroll in the church school? Come sit over here. What's your name? Hi, I'm Vivian. She is now my sister. I know many of the new families who have come in this parish, at this temple, have had that same beautiful experience of Vivian. So without further ado, her story is a beautiful one. Mrs. Vivian Clough.
Thank you so much. I'm not as tall as you are. Well, yes, if you don't know me, I'm Vivian. They call me the FBI agent over here because no one gets in church without me knowing who you are, what do you do. And if you have kids with you, I'm the one that attacks you. And I'll be like, hey, I'll take them with me. I'm going to church school. And I'll just take them. But I'm originally from Bethlehem, if you don't know me, from that small town in Bethlehem. I'm here. I followed the love of my life, Isaac, so that's how I ended up in Houston. Why I'm here and what I do, I have no idea. But when we moved here, I got married, and 2 months later, he got transferred somewhere else. So after being excited that I'm at St. George, and I love St. George, don't get me wrong if anyone here is from St. George, but it's way too big for me. I come from a small town, and I was like, oh my gosh, okay, that's where I have to be at church. But then we moved, we ended up back here, and when we moved back, someone said, hey, we go to St. Anthony, you want to come with us? And I'm like, yeah, we'll try it. So the first feeling I got, guys, it was amazing. It just felt like home. Why it felt like home, I don't know. Renda, I don't know where you are. Victoria, Dale, Zaina, I don't know where you are. Andrew, he just like, all I did is looked at Andrew and I said, this is how I want my son to be one day. So he was 1 year and a half at that time. He was a baby. And I looked at Zaina and I said, this is how Samuel is going to be. And I'm so proud to be here. I love the man he's becoming at St. Anthony. It's just everything about St. Anthony feels like home. And I want each and every one that comes over to feel that they're at home. And that's why we're here. It's not for us. We built all of this, not for me, not for any of you guys here. It's for our kids. It's for the generation to come. And if we're not going to welcome those kids at our church, I don't know what we're doing here. So this is why I'm here. I love everything about it. I fight with him a lot. We're always fighting, but I still love you, Father. And I love I love you. You know I love you. But But I want to thank every one of you guys. Fadia, I love you. You hugged me from the first day, and you said, I love how you let your son take that candle and light it every single Sunday. I love you. I'll never forget this. And I want to be that person for everyone else that visits our church, that they will stay. And I want each and every one of you to do the same. Help us build St. Anthony, because this is for us, for our kids, for the future kids to come. And I love you all. And thank you for being here. And I hope that you guys enjoyed the whole day. And now I'll just leave it to Father.
I just want to thank the speakers, to Chip and Teresa and Deanne and Vivian, who I love dearly. Your words, hopefully for you all, captured the essence of our parish. And it's so easy for me to be a priest of a parish where people just love. It's not this way in many churches in our Orthodox world, even across denominations. Pastors burn out, and they say, well, the priests need, or pastors need to take sabbaticals, and they need to do this self-care, and we do receive that. But you guys take care of me, and I get stressed. Just ask Ramya. But you guys take care of us, my family, and it's so easy to love people who love. And I thank you all for that. And to the speakers, thank you. To Emily and John, this event can't happen. Emily sat in my office and said, Father, we're coming up on our 40 years. I'm like, yeah, what should we do? Let's do a lunch. I was like, okay. And then it turned into this. I thought it was going to be like, you know, something pizza. Simple, maybe not quite pizza, but what has become this sort of banquet, if you will, is because of Emily and the MAM leadership and the Men's Society and all of you who are present that came to help and just to enjoy this event, this 40-year event, to honor the people who have come before us. It's very fitting that in this morning's gospel, not the sermon, not the gospel about the liturgy, but the gospel that was read by Father George during Orthros. It's the last gospel reading of the morning gospels, the 11th Iothenon. And in that gospel reading, it talks about Christ speaking to Peter and saying, Peter, do you love me? And he says, feed my sheep, feed my lambs. And at the very end of that gospel reading, it says, there were many miracles that Christ performed. And in fact, there were so many that the world itself could not contain the books that could be written about what miracles Christ did. Why do I share that? Because there are so many people here and so many people who are not here who have done so many things, miracles. And if I had a list of names, a paper couldn't take it. I wouldn't say the world could not contain it. But there are so many people here who have made this place what it is, and you know who you are, and I thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I want to read a letter from Bishop Thomas because unfortunately, as I mentioned earlier, he couldn't be here, and very sadly, his uncle passed away, but he says, I'll read, Beloved clergy, brothers and sisters in Christ at St. Anthony in Spring, may God bless you and keep you always. I'm very sorry that I cannot be with you this weekend. Just yesterday, my uncle Norman Cross passed away, and I need to be here to prepare for his funeral. I want you to know that the Church of St. Anthony's holds a very special place in my heart. 41 years ago, I came to Houston as a layman and was blessed to serve the Church of St. George while also assisting in a number of missionary efforts. The first missionary effort was working with the community of St. Anthony. I became well acquainted with the young people there, as well as the clergy that served our parish. St. Anthony's was the first parish that I was involved in at the grassroots, In 1988, I was ordained a deacon, and I went and offered prayers at the parish when no priest was available. God always provided your parish with everything needful for the work of evangelization as well as the ministry to the faithful. He ends with a little bit of a story. I remember when you were meeting on FM 1960 in Suite 16 and subsequently on Mirror Lake in Spring. Believe it or not, when the property was purchased on Mirror Lake, there was a substantial amount of water in the form of a pond that created a lot of tension for the people who were looking to build further. The late Father Peter Demrow brought experts from Houston to look at the land, and they told them that they wouldn't be able to do so much because of the land being on water. Some weeks later, Father Peter was passing a construction site and convinced the company working there to bring all of the fill that they weren't going to use to fill up the pond. At no cost to the church, that task was completed and allowed for a functional building in the early stages of your parish. I bring this up because I want you to always remember that as long as you have faith and call upon the name of our Lord, you will never want when it comes to spiritually feeding the community. You have a magnificent church facility, which I was honored to serve in a few months ago, under the direction of our beloved Metropolitan Saba and all the clergy who serve there. Only good things can happen. My prayers are with you. May God grant you many years. Yours in Christ, Bishop Thomas. John, can you give me that thing? There's been a few references to this suite on 1960, a place that was next door to a nightclub, where on Pascha, they wondered, what were these people doing here on a Saturday night? Isn't this a church? And then we had people, good people, who would go to that club and say, can you please keep it down for a few minutes? We're having church here. It's an evening worship prayer service, and we need it to be a little bit more quiet, and they were good neighbors. I bring this up because there's a very near and dear man to so many hearts. A dear man and woman who I remember as a kid being from St. George, baptized at St. George, ordained as a priest at St. George. I remember Uncle Ralph and Aunt Adeline for as long as I can ever remember. That Uncle Ralph and Aunt Adeline, you too, and all of your family were the ones who helped really start and build up St. George, and you both and your family saw something similar in North Houston. Uncle Ralph owned that shopping center, and for 3 years, they let us worship in that little strip center for no charge. They gave out of their hearts. And I think it's very fitting that on this day, when we commemorate our 40th anniversary as a parish, we honor the both of you for what you've done for our parish. And the way we want to do that is just an icon. It's an icon of the cross, the crucifixion. And this cross that we want to present the both of you with is an exact replica of the cross that sits atop of our altar inside the parish.